It is now 4:02 in the afternoon. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Citizens Appeal Board. We start with roll call.
All right, Russell Olmsted.
Here.
Michelle Williams is not here. Sophia Brewer, not here. Jordan Cross, here. Reginald Howard.
Present.
Jason Osborne.
Present.
Dean Pacific.
Present.
And Doug Maliski.
Present.
All good.
All right, so just for the record, it looks like we have 5 present, 3 absent. I believe that still gives us a quorum to conduct business today.
That's correct. And for the record, Michelle Williams did contact us and let us know that she wouldn't be able to attend the meeting.
Very good. All right, next order of business is the approval of the December 18th, 2024 minutes. Does anyone need a moment to review those minutes before we proceed with the motion? All right, hearing none, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Support.
Right. Any discussion? Seeing none, I think we'll just take a verbal vote, if that's all right. All in favor of approving the December minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No opposition. Motion passes. The next item of business is the board liaison report.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Not a whole lot to report this month, but it's great to see you all. Great to connect. I do want to introduce Kimberly Hall, who is present. She is the Labor Relations Specialist, which is the position I first came to work with Kat with, right? So she's done an amazing job here in the city, and I'm sure she'll be joining us more often. So it's great to have her with us here today. In addition to that, our council took the initiative to get some training scheduled for the board related to use of force training that happens over at GRPD. So first of all, thank you, Mr. Strong, for doing that. And that is scheduled for March 6th, tentatively. We will get final confirmation on all those things and send that out to you all via email, but we'd ask that you all note that date. Mr. Strong, do you know the time that was set around?
I believe your staff had checked in with Mr. Molesky specifically because his attendance is most critical, and I think there was an indication that, Mr. Molesky, you were available. We were going to poll the other members to make sure that those that wanted to attend could attend, and then give a final confirmation after today, so.
That's perfect. So we will do that via email to make sure everyone has that information. Again, this is the use of force training that all but Mr. Molesky has attended before, but it's always good to do a refresher if it would be beneficial to you. And again, thank you, Mr. Strong, for taking initiative related to that. We will also schedule the additional trainings that we do for upcoming meetings. We don't have any pending appeals, so that'll be good timing for us to do that. That will include our training that we receive from the clerk's office, as well as the training that we receive from the law department and the OPA-related training. But that concludes my report.
Very good. Moving on to, skipping over item 5, which is absent, item 6, old business. We had, some months ago, this committee had formed a subcommittee to discuss the bylaws and certain issues that we had noted. Those meetings were held, and at this time, we have some proposals to put forth. I think 2 in particular. The first is a change to bylaw 2.10 regarding training, appointment of board members. I believe that was sent out via email before today. I certainly hope that was the case. Let me ask the members, has everyone reviewed that? Has anyone not had an opportunity to review that change to the bylaw?
I believe only one was sent out via email to us of the 2. But I could be wrong. I'm looking at my email right now. I might be wrong there.
Okay.
I believe what was sent out was a copy of the letter that was forwarded to us
Yes.
to send.
All right.
We do have copies of that letter present today that we can pass down, but if there's something else that needs to be reviewed, my understanding was this was what was asked to be sent out.
All right. I believe there were, I had 2 attachments to request to send out. It looks like this one didn't make it, so let's just shift gears. We'll talk about the letter. The letter was sent out to the members. I hope everyone had a chance to review it. If you did not, looks like copies are coming out now. So just as a brief summary of what this is about, this letter is intended to address an issue with board membership. The way the structure currently exists is that board members will be, their terms all coincide with each other. And so everybody's term ends on the same date, which means hypothetically there could be a complete turnover of the board from one day to the next. In order to preserve institutional knowledge and to avoid a complete upheaval of the board, it has been proposed and the subcommittee has approved a suggestion to the Grand Rapids City Manager to propose a change to stagger the terms so that there is never a complete turnover of the board. The intention is for the city manager to take this letter, to bring it to the city board, the city commissioner board, and propose a change to them. That's the hope anyways. So, I guess at this point, the letter as it stands is kind of a first step. It's been drafted in the form that you see and is approved by the subcommittee, at least to present to this board for final approval. So with all of that being said, does anyone have any comments or concerns, discussion, anything pertaining, does anyone need an additional time to review this letter or anything, and I open up to comment from the board? Don't all talk at once. All right.
Well, I'll just indicate that because we knew that this was coming up, we did have discussion with labor relations regarding this, and we're able to determine that this is not something that we would need to bargain regarding. So I do think it's within the scope of the board to recommend this change, and if the board were to vote to say, yes, we want to recommend this, and we would move forward and try to see what next steps are.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no further discussion on it, do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second?
Support.
All right. And just to be clear, correct me if I'm wrong here, the motion is to
Yeah.
present this letter for presentation to the city manager.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. With that clarification, is there any discussion? Seeing none?
I do have a question.
Yes, please.
Is there a, for the existing board, is there a proposal on how we adjust it to meet up with this? I mean, this makes great sense if it was year one non-existent, but I don't see in the proposed language anything adjusting that. And maybe that should be added in.
Sure. Yeah, I think we had discussed that in the subcommittee. If you have a comment, go ahead.
What we discussed in the subcommittee, there were ideas that were proposed, but all of those ideas are kind of beyond what the board's capability is to actually impose. Along those went along with the staggered, the way that we stagger the representation of our city commissioners. Now, this is just what we had discussed, basically, was just when the commissioner comes in, it's their turn, their appointment starts at that date. So it lines up with the already staggered representation that we have from ward commissioners as well as from the mayor. So it would line up with those terms, and therefore we would never lose half of the board at once. So it would be implemented, I think, in a way, I mean, again, this is purely up to the city commission, but the way that it could be implemented would be to have people serve their term out to the extent of whoever the representative is from that ward, and then kind of start over anew on the next election cycle.
Yeah, and I guess to add on to that, I think the concern is that, does this mean, by implementing this, does that mean that some members' terms will be shortened by a year? Does it mean some members' terms will be extended by a year? Personally, I'm a little squeamish about it's kind of like giving yourself a raise, you know, and ultimately that's not a decision for us to make. That's going to be for the city commission to decide how they want to implement that. You know, however that pans out for my money, you know, if that means that my term gets shortened, but we have a more stable board, I'm fine with that. If it means it gets lengthened, then I serve at the pleasure of the mayor and the president. So that's just my opinion on it. So,
Makes sense.
all right. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we can take it to a vote. Do you want to do a roll call vote for this one? Or is there?
I think it's whichever works for you.
Okay, all right. Well, seeing not a whole lot of formality in this process, I'm just going to take it verbal. So all in favor of passing the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, hearing none opposition, the motion passes. If you could, please.
We will provide that letter to the city manager and have discussions with internal staff regarding that.
All right.
I'll also indicate I did go back and review the email that was sent related to the bylaws. There are multiple attachments, but it's of the letter.
Okay.
Right, so there
see.
wasn't a second document.
That must be a clerical error on my part. So there is a second document. We'll have to table that until next meeting. We'll get these passed eventually. I'm sorry it's taken so long.
If there's a general idea regarding what those are, I think would be appropriate if you're willing or open to it, to speak to the idea regarding it. I think that could be beneficial.
Sure, well, let's do this. I did bring a copy of the proposed language change. Again, this was approved by the subcommittee. The change is to bylaw 2.10, and the proposed new language is as follows. New board members, upon appointment, shall receive training in areas relevant to their service to this board. Areas of training include, but are not limited to, civil rights, law enforcement use of force policies, city policies, internal affairs policies and procedures, and public service employment law. This list is neither exhaustive nor mandate as to what training must be performed. Existing members shall receive remedial training as deemed necessary by the board. And then that, close quote on that. to explain, I think as it stands, there is no bylaw concerning training. Nevertheless, it has become a regular practice of this board when new members come in to provide training to them in the areas that this bylaw discusses. And so, you know, the subcommittee believes that it would be valuable to put that into writing as more of an influence on that continued practice, because as it stands, I don't think there's anything that requires it to go on. The language, as the careful listeners may have heard, is very open-ended and broad, and I think that is by design so as not to restrict or to overimpose training, really to allow it to develop as the needs arise and as the board, in whatever its iteration exists, deems necessary. So, having just read it, I don't know if that's sufficient for the board to consider it. Certainly open to tabling this until our next meeting so that we can get you an actual copy to review in your own time. But at this point, I guess I'm open to discussion or a motion one way or the other.
I just wanted to add for context, the reason that the subcommittee discussed this was since OPA has been the liaison to this board, the training practices have been very much normalized and done extremely well and regular. Before OPA was a part of the board, it wasn't as organized as what it is now. And the idea is to formalize it just in case, just to make sure that as this board goes on, regardless of leadership of the board, regardless of leadership of OPA, that it's standardized within a structured system to allow for some sort of clarity of training practices. So
I just want to take a moment to while I'm grateful for the compliment to OPA. It has definitely been a collaborative effort with city staff, especially the law department. Mr. Brown has been extremely involved in that space, and the police department has been open to it as well. So I'm grateful for the support of other city departments and putting that together.
absolutely.
I know you haven't asked, but the bylaws do suggest a process for amending the bylaws, which requires an intent to be published. So there would need to be, according to 7.2, provided notice of intention to make, alter, amend, or repeal the bylaws at the next preceding regular or special meeting. It's not prescriptive on how that exactly has to be done. Ordinarily, that might be done by a posting consistent with a notice for a meeting. You could maybe make that verbal notice here, and we could follow up with a more written notice posted at the public boards. But I would suggest that the text of the added language be provided so the public knows what the board is contemplating at the next meeting.
Is it your opinion that the formation subcommittee and discussion of changes to the bylaws at an earlier date isn't insufficient to satisfy that bylaw?
It says that the board has the power and authority to make, alter, amend, or repeal the bylaws by 2/3 vote of the membership at any regular or special meeting, provided that notice of intent has been given at the next preceding regular or special meeting. So I don't know that a notice has been given at a regular or special meeting. It sounds like there's been conversations and the subcommittee has done that work. And I think the bylaw suggests that a more public notice and more official notice be given, which is consistent with at least my understanding of how corporate bylaws and nonprofit bylaws would ordinarily work as well.
All right. Well, maybe then this all works out very fortuitously, that we can entertain a motion to comply with the notice requirements of what is it, 7.2 of the bylaws, and then in the interim we can get the hard copy or get written copies to each of the members. And it sounds like if it's a 2/3 required, we need one more person on the board to actually pass it anyways. So, do I hear a motion to fulfill the notice requirements of 7.2 regarding this change to the bylaws?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Support.
Beat you to it. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a verbal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, no opposition. I believe the motion passes. Do you need anything from the membership to effectuate the notice requirements, or?
No, we'll do a meeting notice, and from what I'm understanding, well, I'll run it past council before we post it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, and then in the meantime, I will I'll send you an email with a copy of this for distribution. All right, I believe that takes care of old business. Is there any other old business before we move on? All right, seeing none, we're moving on to item 7, open discussion. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right.
Is there any, am I understanding also from the board liaison report that there are no appeals in the pipeline or anything?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. There was some comments earlier about attendance, and I just want to put on the record, just want to make sure that we're having communication with our members to advise them of the meetings as they're coming up, and if there's issues with attendance, then I guess I'm relying on OPA or whoever the responsible person is to point those out, and we can discuss those at a future meeting if needed.
Sure, we can review attendance records and make sure we keep you up to date on that. So here's how we operate. We send a reminder of the meetings as a courtesy to the board. However, the meetings are set as public meetings, and when the board adopts the dates, we keep those dates, but we send a reminder because we know everyone has busy schedules. That's the extent of what we do as far as preparing the board to appear for meetings. Is there something beyond that that's being requested?
I guess the thought occurs to me is if it's possible to, for the next email that goes out, endeavor to get an affirmative response. And if we don't get a response by email, if you have other contact information for membership, such as a phone number, if you can try a call, make contact, remind them, make sure this is something that the emails are going through, the reminders are going through.
Okay, we can definitely do that for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm not asking for every month.
Understood.
If there's been repeat absences, I want to make sure that it's neglect and not an unintentional sort of thing.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Turning then to public comment. Any members of the public wish to make themselves heard to this board? Now is the time to come forward. Seeing none, I will comment for anyone that could possibly be watching this on the web. These are open public meetings. Strongly encourage anyone that wishes to come in, participate, make their voices heard, and in the event of us having an appeal, your presence is always welcome to observe the proceedings and then voice your commentary at the end of it. All right, moving on then. I think that essentially concludes our agenda. Last item here is adjournment. Unless there's anything else, we will stand in recess until next month.